Salute, folks. It's your boy, the insurance junkie. Your favorite color, the all-star advisor on all your social media insurance brother. And today we're doing another New Year stream. And this is in tandem with the Financial Advocacy Podcast with my brother from another mother, David Kinder. We're going to be talking about the end of WEP, GPO, and the rebuttal to Senator Elizabeth Warren's attack against the annuity industry. We're going to get started in about another 5 minutes or so. Enjoy the tunes, enjoy the vibe. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, white bags, work in progress every day and seek success.
time. Um, First of all, this week, major news, particularly for those in retirement, those who are in retirement planning, major news. Uh, Senator, I knew I was going to do that. President Biden has signed the Social Security Fairness Act into law. And Happy New Year, Alonzo. Glad to see you, my friend. So with the Social Security Fairness Act, it has eliminated the provisions of WEP and GPO, and everybody usually asks, what the heck is that? And it stands for windfall elimination provisions and government pension offsets. So I'm going to share my screen here because I actually created some slides, about 3 years ago. I did a Social Security workshop on this. And knowing that my area here, we have a lot of educators and a number of government workers. And when I was giving this workshop, I knew that the question would have to, no, the question wouldn't be brought up. I was going to bring it up to show that there's some other areas of retirement planning that people need to know about. And after my workshop, I did have someone come up. He worked for the city of Brea, which is here in Orange County. And he said, how's this going to affect me? And I said, all I know is that you need to talk to your HR department and you should probably contact Social Security and figure out how all this works together. But let me show you what this is. So adding this here, these are the slides I created. We're going to talk about these provisions here. So first of all, these are two areas. They have to be coordinated for dual income household types. What the heck are we talking about? Dual income meaning that we have the government sector, federal, state, county, city government employees, including and especially teachers. Alonzo, go ahead and restream and share with your audience. This is good information. It needs to be shared. So we get anybody that ever worked for the government in some way, shape, or form is included in this. And then those who also worked in the private sector. And of course, they're paying into the Social Security system. These provisions, windfall elimination provision and government pension offset, were to ensure that people don't double dip into these government programs. That's kind of the idea behind it. What WEP can affect how Social Security calculates your retirement or disability benefits. GPO is a law that affects spouses and widows or widowers. So I'm going to share with you an article, and this is for the workshop that I did some time ago. It only affects about 15 states. So here's what we got. For this lady, she retired as a teacher here in California. She didn't know she would only be allowed to collect a small portion of the Social Security benefits that she paid into before going into education. So she was in the private sector and went into the education sector. Under the windfall elimination provision, she only gets $42 a month from Social Security. And she's like, they can just keep it. It's embarrassing, right? So, it's slap in the face. Yeah, I get that. You said before, I mean, quite frankly, that dollar amount reminds me of if you're on Medicaid, and which means that you are not on proper health insurance, right? You're on the government health insurance essentially, and you have to spend down all of your assets. You're allowed like $2,000 of assets and $35 a month, and that's pretty much for your prescription medications, right? It's a slap in the face. It basically makes you broke. Well, this reminds me of that just because of the dollar amounts. So, she does receive her teacher's pension, but she didn't teach long enough to maximize her retirement. And so now she says she struggles. And considering the type of employment that we've had in the past versus what we do today, people go in and out of different jobs today more than they did in the past. So I could see the mentality in the past because these laws were created back in the 70s and 80s. Let's keep going here. So she got another unwelcome surprise when her husband died the year before. This article was written in 2021. When her husband died, she was not allowed to collect any of his Social Security benefits. I mean, normally one of the things that we teach in retirement planning is that when you have retired, the higher earning breadwinner should delay claiming their benefits. And so when they delay claiming their benefit, if they can wait until at least age 7, if they wait to age 70, then their spouse would receive that higher amount, either their own benefit or their spouse's benefit, whichever one is higher when the spouse passes. So the fact that she doesn't get anything out of that, and so she's in a very tough spot. And that's what this article was highlighting here. So I was, of course, bringing this out in this workshop. The California Federation of Teachers estimates almost 2 million of retired teachers and public employees who once worked other jobs to supplement their lower pay. Found out later in life they would collect little to none of their Social Security. Now, let me clarify. They paid into it, right? Because they had those other jobs. They're required to have that money withheld. And yet they don't get it to have any of that benefit. So once they realize what's going to happen, the article saying fewer people are going to go into teaching. We're going to have a severe teaching shortage. And this person, Doug Orr, who's being quoted in this article, who retired from California Federation of Teachers, or chairs the California Federation of Teachers Retirement Policy Committee. People thought we were going to get Social Security because they paid the money in, paid for that benefit, are not getting it. California is one of 15 states in the United States where public employees are blocked from receiving most, if not all, of their Social Security. This includes benefits from the late spouses. All right, Mike, I'm glad to see you. Thanks for chiming in here.
Sorry, I'm late, guys.
I'm on a roll here, my friend. Okay, so
I heard.
Yeah, this is something that once it's understood, you're just like, wow, I can't believe that this was a law. I'm glad that President Biden, I don't care who it was, this was a nonpartisan thing, really. At least it should have been nonpartisan. And I just amended this slide today just to change it, that it used to be up to each of you, and addressing people in a workshop, right? Up to each of you to understand your government pension benefits and determine how to best structure and coordinate those benefits. You used to have to do that. Financial advisors like myself can be very helpful to help you understand your benefits, coordinate them, and maximize that benefit for you and your family. And at the time, there was a current bill that proposes to eliminate both WEP and GPO, and has now been passed and signed into law as of January 6th. January 6th? Actually, it was January 5th. I mistyped.
Yeah.
So I didn't sign that on Sunday. And that was something else. So anyway, I wanted to share that real quick because wonderful news. So women, teachers and such people who had those dual income types of income, they can now get pretty much the benefits they are entitled to that they paid into. I always want to clarify that it's not an entitlement welfare thing. It's a fact that you paid into a system and you get to deserve those benefits. So
right, and we were talking a little bit about that yesterday, right? I mean, it's a benefit that you paid into, and then they kind of took it away from you. So it's not. You're right. It's not like a welfare or something like that where people get on it and stay for whatever reason. But it is something that you've actually paid into, contributed to. So you are entitled and you should be allowed to use those benefits. So like I said, we talked a little bit about that yesterday, and I think this makes a lot of sense that this happened. I know if it were me, and I was a teacher, I would be pretty pissed if I paid into a system for my whole working life and then never got to take advantage of the benefits.
And the hard part is that, do people really understand those decisions that have been made? Do they understand that this planning has to be incorporated, and they don't know how? And frankly,
Right.
even as advisors, there's very few people that know enough about that to help people make informed decisions. There was a person in our Facebook group, Heather Schreiber. She's really, really good with this. She's great with Social Security issues. She would probably know far more about this as far as how do you calculate all this stuff? How do you figure out can you get, what can't you get? But other than that, I mean, I was at a loss for the person that came into the workshop and asked those questions. Like, I didn't know how to help him. The main thing that I was glad to do, and glad is almost a weird word, but just to make sure that they're aware, bringing that awareness to realize you might have a situation that you didn't realize existed. As of 2 days ago, now it doesn't exist. All they have to do is wait for that to get through and pass. Let me click here. Awesome. And so Alonzo asked, I wonder if they'll go retro on paying her. I don't know about her for the article that article is about, but I do know that based on this, the article here, what's it called? I saw it. I was like trying to verify everything, but apparently, according to the article that I'm quoting here, that was announcing this news, they will go retro for 2024. So whatever that they would have had as that difference, they will get that as a lump sum. And all they have to do is make sure that they're enrolled and everybody has everything on file, and they'll be able to get that. Yeah, in fact, here, I'll reshare my screen here because I now know how to do that. And so the benefits hike under new law would be retroactive to December 2023. So eligible recipients who previously only received partial benefits will get a full payment retroactive to a year ago. So that is great news. I'm really glad to see that. Yes, it's a real entitlement, or rather, it's a benefit program. Yeah, I prefer to call it that. We paid into it. It's
Right.
It's a contract with America. And it's unfortunate that those decisions were made all those eons ago, late 70s and early 80s, which is probably why I had it in my mind regarding Senator Biden, because I remember while he helped to save Social Security today for beneficiaries, back in the early 80s, he was also one of those that voted to tax Social Security. So we have that in the Social Security history archive taxing. I've got it bookmarked. I don't need to find it now.
And he finally helped to defeat Medicare.
Yeah, let's not go down that route. Okay. Now, there were some detractors, and I think it was in the other article I was quoting earlier, which is that, well, it's going to cost more. Well, it's going to cost maybe, I think the article said 1.5% more for this. So when you look at it as a percentage, and by the way, that's a great sales tip for everybody, guys. If you want to quote a big number, quote it as a percentage. It puts everything in a easier to swallow context. But like it increases by 1.5%. All right. At some point, we'll talk about real money. At this point, if I was a part of the Democratic Party in an elected office, look, we're going to pass all this stuff. We'll let Trump figure it out. He's already promised the moon on everything. Let him do it all. But this is a law that I'm glad got passed and got just taken care of. And Armando, my friend, good to see you here. You can't find the podcast on Facebook desktop. I don't know how to help you, my friend. I am on YouTube. You'll find me there. And I am live. I should be going to both the podcast page and my personal profile. But anyway, just starting off, I'm really glad that law passed. Wonderful news for people. And here's the other part. It makes our job a whole lot easier. So we can work with people who've worked in the public sector and help them make the important retirement decisions and realize what can they anticipate, what can't they anticipate. And we just look at what their statements are and realize, yeah, you're going to get them according to when you claim and all that other stuff. So, it makes our job easy. I don't like having there being an area of personal finance or retirement advice, and you can't give them a definitive answer. I don't like that wherever I can. So thank goodness that passed. Really happy about that. Mike, I'm really glad you're here now. Happy New Year.
Thanks. Yep. Nope. Sorry, I got sidetracked there, but here I am.
Well, there we are. So now, part 2 of today's rant. That's what it is. I am going to go on a rant. As some of you may know, and of course we have a lot of insurance and financial services professionals that listen to us, and you guys know I've been working on some articles. I've been writing an industry course, and in fact, one of the things I want to do is I'm going to write an article regarding fiduciary duty. And we've already got the podcast on that. We did that a few weeks ago. Oh, by the way, Mike, something else you may or may not have noticed. I named this is now season 2 of our podcast.
I did see that.
I figured,
Start of a new year. Yeah.
Start of a new year, and Spotify asked for what season and episode number. And I'm like, you know what? This is a good time to this is season 2. We're starting off the new year that way, and we're going to make them happy with their way of uploading stuff. So I figured.
Makes total sense. I figured that was the whole thing. Yep. No, I saw it.
Yeah. So anyway, we're gonna have some fun here. But when I was doing, I was talking to the editor of the IRC, the Register, and one of the things I said, other than the other course I'm writing, is I wanted to talk about fiduciary duty. What does it really mean? And really outlining the whole thing as best as I can without being an attorney, without being a compliance person. I'm pretty well versed on this. So I started researching some things. And I saw Senator Warren's attack piece. I mean, this is a hit piece, like almost nothing else. And I'm going to, Armando asked a great question. Can season 1 be accessed? Yes, it's all over YouTube. It is all uploaded to Spotify and wherever you find your podcasts. iHeartRadio, Amazon, Audible, what else?
SoundCloud,
and wherever else. Yeah, you'll find it. Have fun searching the backlogs. There's tons there. But I'm going through Senator Warren's report, and it's so full of half-truths. And that's something about good propaganda, meaning something that's well-written propaganda, is that you're going to have some truth, and then you're going to have your completely biased opinions in there. And let me get my bias out there right away. We are insurance agents. We happen to sell annuities. We like annuities. I like being paid to sell annuities. I don't mind all of the extra perks. Let's call them that. The perks. If we qualify for trips and extra bonuses and whatever else, yeah, okay. But the way that this report makes it sounds like we only work for one company, and all we're trying to do is sell one product, and that's all we do. And that is not a fair assessment of the insurance industry. Now, granted, there's always organizations that exist out there that's all that they do. So we know that. But I think that's more of the exception than the norm. I really do. Even if you take some of the bigger network marketing groups, these companies, they'll have 1 or 2 preferred companies, and then they'll say, here's another 30 to make sure that you are serving your client the best. Because,
there's always going to be that, you're all, and I think that this is true almost in any profession, right? You're going to have your preferred carriers, your preferred method of doing things, but then you have the backups for, maybe one-off situations or a place where, your preferred carrier doesn't fit that client for whatever reason, or they won't take them, or, various reasons. So you're always, and there's nothing wrong with having, 30 different carriers or whatever, but everybody's going to have their, generally speaking, carrier that they're used to doing business with, that they prefer, that they understand well, and things like that. And then other cases where maybe the client isn't a good fit for that situation, that's where they have their backup carriers. Now, I will say also that there are some companies that are captive, right? And that is the only option that you have. So that's a little bit different. But even then, I still think that the agent, generally speaking, this goes with fiduciaries and anybody else, generally speaking, will have the client's best interest in mind. They may not have the best product, but they're still not necessarily trying to harm them on purpose. You can say that for fiduciaries too, that sometimes they do things that aren't necessarily the most beneficial for their clients. But I don't think that they were intentionally trying to harm them. So
I'll agree with that. And even for captive situations, and I'm thinking about the bigger career agencies, right? And I know specifically regarding Mass Mutual because I was with them, for about 18 months. And they have a separate entity. Now they call it MLIA, MMLIAI, Mass Mutual Life Insurance Agent Incorporated. I think that's what it stands for. And it's whoever they choose as their current brokerage division currently. So they keep the same entity, but they change whoever you could do outside business with this brokerage and still get sales credit towards your career contract. So that's kind of how that works. And they've got all kinds of different companies there. So this way you're not completely beholden to just one company, which is a misnomer in our industry. A lot of people, in fact, this happens in, I'll say this, but typically the network marketing recruiters, they'll say, you don't want to be with a captive company. You can only sell one company. We can sell 50. And it makes it sound like you're so unbiased. And yet, how can you become an expert in so many companies? It's not possible.
Sure. Yeah.
And
there's pros and cons to both methods, right? I mean, if you are captive and you're a Mass or a Northwestern or a XYZ broker agent, and that's the only company you have, you are 100% going to be an expert in every single product that they have because that's all you got to offer. Whereas if you're a broker, sure, you have more options, but it comes at a cost of maybe not necessarily being able to understand every single product and having them, learn more things on a continuous basis.
I do have good wins here in Southern California. But I'm up now. Make sure I've got my hotspot. Just
you're
in case.
back. You're back.
Timing.
Yeah, I can see you again.
Okay, good deal. And just for now, let me connect to my hotspot here because I don't like being interrupted this way. I was hoping. All right, I can't find it. I'll figure it out later if it comes up again. Okay, so but yeah, there's always a way to serve the client, and that doesn't mean we don't have our preferred companies, but our preferred companies are typically based on reputation, ratings. There's provisions and definitions in the policies that we happen to really like. There's economics within these, whatever it is, there's certain reasons that we like these companies and these products more so than others. And let's be fair, there's a lot of plain vanilla contracts out there that once you read, like, okay, that's about the same as just about everything else. That's okay, as long as we know if there is something different, what makes it special. And I like figuring out where that is.
Yeah, so and especially anyway, with annuities, there might be one area in particular that you're not necessarily pushing them, but maybe they're paying the highest rates at that moment. Or maybe
we're talking about the crediting rates to the client.
Correct. Yeah. Or, maybe they have whatever kind of a bonus incentive for the client that makes sense for the client based on the amount of money they might be contributing or how long they're going to be vested into the policy, how long they're going to stay with the policy for. So, you could have a preferred carrier even temporarily just based on market conditions in which companies are paying certain things at certain points, and your favorite company could change from month to month or year to year just based on the situation and what's currently going on in the market.
Yeah, there's all kinds of reasons, and by the way, if a company happens to piss us off, those things happen, right? And we'll give a chance, let's get this thing right. But if the company makes me look stupid to no fault of my own, and I'm not saying that this has ever happened, but if it ever does, the company's put on notice with me, whether I do business with them or not. And it's part of the capitalistic system of the agencies with the companies and with the agent force to figure out where are we going to get the best bang for our buck, where are we going to get the best reputation, where are we going to get the best product, where all of that factors in. And Senator Warren gives us no credit at all for doing any kind of due diligence at all whatsoever. So I'm going to share my screen here because we're going to go through this stupid report. And so this was it September 2024. So this is before the current or the latest version of the Department of Labor law was repealed, stayed, or whatever, because that thing doesn't work. It's gone. But she still needed to be responded to on all this garbage. So I saw this. I'm like, this thing is. I need a rant on this. So current loopholes allow investment fiduciaries, notice how she phrases it, investment fiduciaries to work against the saver's best interest. I mean, what a great title for that section, right? And industry lobbyists are attacking DOL's new retirement security rule. Oh, we're going to attack you back. Oh, I was about to call. Anyway, I'm telling you, this is going to be a rant. So let's zoom in here on this thing. Zoom in. Oh. And I highlighted this thing to make sure that I stayed on point here. So first, you're going to notice that within this whole thing, we've got her team that has scoured the internet for all these different conventions and prizes and trips and bonuses and stuff. And what's interesting is that the report seems to say only if you sell certain products do you get this stuff. Well, each company has a full menu, usually a pretty full menu of products. And none of these are saying you have to sell annuity, fixed index annuity, XYZ in order to get this. What they're saying is, and this is one of my favorite phrases, we want your money here. We want you to bring the business to us. That's what the companies are saying. They've been saying that for eons. They all want business. They're competing for the agent's attention to make sure that we keep them on our radar screen so we will sell their product and this is where I'm putting my values. We're going to sell their product where appropriate. Because quite frankly, I value my license, I value my E&O, and I ain't going to jail for nobody, and I don't want to get sued.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but a trip to Venice isn't worth losing my license and being sued over. So, you can take that and shove it.
Yeah, exactly. And SILAC, I remember SILAC going into some regulatory issues. I mean, I've seen them in the news. I think they got a ratings downgrade. I think they're a B rating, something like that. But I remember they were really buying business. And what I mean by that is that they offered such great hypothetical promises that, I mean, you could tell no other company was offering this because they had to buy that business. They have to offer the moon in order to get whatever it is. And the only way I would even consider a company like that, if someone had like $100,000 or less, I wouldn't want to go past $100,000. Like maybe I wouldn't want to go past 50 on that. But like maybe we could just call it the Hail Mary sale and just let's go ahead and throw that in there. And hey, if it works out for them, great. But I don't know. It doesn't necessarily fit right because of how the company was doing business. In fact, I was on one of their webinars, and meaning I was a participant. And of course, I could ask questions, and they had one of their actuaries on. Now, so that's not a VP of sales and marketing. They have the actuary, and what are actuaries supposed to do? Tell you the truth, right? They're going to tell you the exact truth. Now, I've never heard spin before from an actuary, but this was interesting because I basically asked, your ratings are like a B plus or B plus, whatever it was. I don't remember. Why aren't you at least an A- rating? And they said, then the actuary basically said, if we wanted more capital reserves, we'd get them. That is the biggest spin that I've ever heard in my life. I would never. That was horrible to hear. And I didn't want to make the person who invited me look bad or anything. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to let that slide. But I'm like,
just let it die.
Let it die. Yeah, not touching that one. So let's go through what I've highlighted in this thing. Let's zoom in some more. That's Control Plus. There we go. Okay. So the first part, this type of bad advice, we know she's attacking annuities. So let's just call it what it is here. This type of bad advice causes Americans to lose billions of dollars each year on low quality or high cost investment products pushed onto them by conflicted advisors. So she's looking at the fees and the end results of the account balances, which to me means she's conflating investments with annuities and they don't do the same thing. So that's the first thing that she doesn't understand what the frickin' annuity is. So sorry, Senator Warren. Maybe you should talk to Richie Neal, who actually was a career agent with Mass Mutual, and get an education of how financial products work. I understand that Richie Neal can't stand Senator Warren, so I don't know if they'll ever be in the same room together. But so conflicts of interest among advice providers, and no, she doesn't specify between investments and insurance, all this stuff. This conflicts of interest cost retirement savers as much as 20% of their retirement income over a lifetime, and conflicted advice on fixed index annuities alone cost savers as much as $5 billion every year. Where is this coming from? Now, obviously, there's a footnote there. I'm not going to bother. This is a 21-page report. By the way, the last 10 pages is all the things that they're referencing. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. Do I have to read it to realize what she's getting at? No, she's conflating investments with annuities, and they're not the same thing. We can quote Tom Hegna on this one. Anybody could give you your principal. Anybody could give you interest. But only annuity companies can guarantee income for life with what they call either longevity credits or mortality credits, depending on which book you want to read from Tom Hegna, right? That's what annuities do. They help transfer the risk of running out of money to the insurance company, and we let them offer us a guarantee. But the insurance company has to make money too, which is not a bad thing. And so the insurance, they make the money because they have the money essentially on deposit with them. It's a premium. And they take it and they invest it, and they need to make more than what the client earns. And that's how they're able to pay out those promised benefits. That's how it works. There's no conflict there as long as they understand how it works. But she's saying, oh, there's all this conflict of interest. We already covered conflict of interest because of fiduciary. Conflict of interest is defined by sources of compensation based on duty of loyalty. This is the fiduciary definition that nobody talks about. Duty of loyalty is defined by sources of compensation. And the fact is that my goal is to help my client be in a better position. But if I happen to get a commission, then if I'm under a fiduciary law, then I must disclose that compensation, and I must get their consent for it. It has to just be disclosed, which is why it's called a prohibited transaction exception form, PTE, because you're not allowed to do it unless you disclose it. And then with that PTE form, you don't have to turn that back into the company. You keep that for your records. That shows that you followed the law. It tells you everything you need to know about that. So all you got to do is get the client's consent if you are a fiduciary. And even then, even if we're not officially fiduciaries, just being in the spirit of fiduciary, where that we just want our clients to be better off. As long as we're representing the contract accurately and precisely, and that we know it's going to fit their situation, how much I'm paid doesn't matter. My compensation, it's immaterial. Like I said, I'm going on a rant. Okay, let's go to the next part. This part is with mutual funds. So, of course, she's lumping in the broker-dealer. Brother Aldo has this comment. He says, I wonder if she also has a problem with doctors receiving sponsored seminar trips from pharmaceutical companies. If she does, she has not made that a public policy thing. Because what you'll see here, at least with this report, is that she's really crusading for the retirement saver. And she's got all this passionate stuff that is really off the mark. Quite frankly, I think RFK might have problems with doctors receiving seminar trips from pharmaceutical companies. If anybody's going to have an issue, RFK will, because he's going to do whatever he's going to do as, Department of Health, Health and Human Services, I think it's called. I don't know. So you never know. So,
well, and it's also true. Don't these I mean, I've never been one, but don't these people that go around the doctor's office and sell the various drugs, don't they get compensated in vacations from their companies based on how many drugs they're able to sell to the office or various things like that? I mean, that's certainly.
I don't know enough about that. There's obviously something, because what they're doing is they're placing the drug, and obviously the doctor's responsible to prescribe and give free samples to who it's appropriate for. But I don't know how they track all of that. I don't know how they track the type of prescriptions given. No clue. I don't know how that part works. I actually had a friend of mine went to high school with me. I think he works in pharmaceutical sales. So if anybody might know, he might. I don't know if he's still in that position or not, but rather successful. I might have to hit him up and ask him. In fact, our high school reunion is coming up in 18 months, so maybe I'll hit him up then. But they're quoting the GAO on this one. Mutual funds that compensate financial professionals are associated with lower average returns. And this could reduce retirement savings growth over time. It could make the difference of tens of thousands of dollars for investors in actively managed domestic equity funds at retirement. Okay, so here's my perspective, and maybe I was taught and trained differently. For broker-sold mutual funds, it should not be about alpha. Alpha is the measurement of returns compared to its benchmark indexes. It was never about alpha for me. It was always about beta. Now, don't start comparing it to alpha male, beta males, and stuff like that. We're not talking about anything like that. So don't put that inference. What we're talking about, alpha is about return. Beta is about risk. How much volatility does that particular investment have compared to its benchmark index? I wanted my clients to have the smoothest ride compared to the returns that they want to get. So it's about the volatility, not about the return. So automatically, I can say, this is what I'm trying to do for you. If I was a registered rep trying to offer mutual funds or assets under management, either one, it's about being able to stay the course. It's not about trying to chase the highest return. So anybody that thinks that, well, that's the wrong benchmark to be looking at anyway. So that's my opinion on that. Okay, so here's the next one. So we got the SILAC inner circle. So what? So here's the thing. Automatically, here's the line that these are aggressive use of secret rewards and kickbacks that incentivize financial agents to give bad advice. Well, automatically, she doesn't understand what annuity is or does. Therefore, she thinks that it's all bad advice. And we're all just trying to earn our trips so we can prey upon the public so that we can all make our sales quotas. Give me a freaking break. But so this report details 4 key findings. 1, kickbacks and conflicts of interest are still pervasively used in 2024 by at least 29 companies. And there's a whole index of all these companies that they listed. Here's all the different things they got. Nothing's changed. You know, it's still up to the agent to figure out what's going to fit for the client. And we still have our preferred companies.
You know, it's funny there. The very last thing you left off was to pay off conflicted advisors. To pay us off. Like, what is that? I'm not conflicted. If the annuity is the right fit for somebody, I'm going to sell it to them. There's no conflict. This is just, I don't even understand where something like this comes from.
Well, you know, she thinks that annuities are not good for the consumer. Flat out, bottom line. That's the way this whole report reads.
She's right. In some instances, it might not be right for the consumer, but this is coming off as if it's never the right thing to do. And that's just simply not true. I mean, that's absurd in the highest degree.
Yeah. So at the bottom here, it said, you know, also uncover widespread perks and kickbacks from the annuity industry. And it's about, you know, all these big old things. You know, you have to do millions of dollars of premium to get even close to doing something with that. So, unless the company's small, you know, like SILAC, small enough, you know. Of course, the companies are using third-party organizations, SMOs. That's a different acronym. We don't use that acronym. We use FMOs, BGAs, IMOs, and EIOUL, whatever. All these different things. So SMO, I'm like, that's a new one for me. The current NAIC and SEC standards are not sufficiently protecting consumers. I will agree with this one to a point when we get to that point in the article, because again, good propaganda is going to have some element of truth in there. But the companies hide behind inadequate disclosures that deflect accusations of conflicts of interest. Yeah, well, okay, duh. All right. Current loopholes allow investment fiduciaries to work against the saver's best interest. So they're talking about ERISA. Is everybody an ERISA Title I fiduciary? And I'm going to say probably not. And that's why they had the Department of Labor thing to put annuity salespeople under this here. I always appreciate Kevin Fink. Is coming from Big Brother, protecting the too dumb for their own good consumers from the few agents who are more concerned with their own benefits than the benefit of the client. Yeah, absolutely it is. And
that's,
you know,
that's true. No matter what the product is, that's true.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. And of course, this has more of an impact because there's such a bigger commission up front, right? We get a lump sum up front if that's the way we choose to be paid. And obviously, there's multiple compensation options depending on what product you're choosing. You get all up front with no ongoing compensation. You have a little bit less up front with a trail commission ongoing, or you just have it as trailed the entire time. Here's our problem with that. We all know about a company, this was several years ago, 6, might be 8 years now, that decided they're not going to pay those trail commissions out anymore. They decided to renegotiate because their agreement was with the broker dealers, not with the agents. So even though the agent chose a trail commission, the company decided we're not going to do that anymore. That company essentially doesn't exist anymore. They decided to.
Why.
Yeah, well, they're having issues. So here's the thing. You might say, well, I can deflect this by taking a lower payout. No, not really. And you're taking a risk with your own cash flow in case a company decides to go down the same the same
And
hole.
what difference does it make what the advisor is paid as long as it's accomplishing the goal that you want and need to have taken care of? I mean, shouldn't the advisor be compensated? I've had people say, I hope you are very handsomely paid for helping me with this many times over my career, so it's not even about that. It's just, why does it matter anyway? If you're doing the right thing for the client, what difference does it make what your compensation is? You should be paid based on your ability to help a client.
Jealousy.
Yeah.
Jealousy by the people who cannot collect on this stuff because they are, and Kevin, I'm sorry, I know you're watching here. You're a CFP, but you're definitely not a fee-only CFP. But the fee-only crowd says, I can't have a conflict of interest because if I get into a car and crash because I'm drunk on alcohol, it's that same mentality. They're afraid of people who are going to take advantage of people. So I can't collect a commission at all. And if they collect a commission, even overrides of past sales that they've made. Like I was on Kevin Thompson's podcast, about 3 months ago. And one thing he told me, he's a CFP. He's also an EA and RICP. And as a CFP, he cannot call himself fee only because he still gets renewal commissions from past life insurance sales that he made. Because he gets that, even though he's not selling that product anymore, he can't call himself fee only because of the CFP Board of Standards and their criteria. So, and he's trying to be all on the up and up, but he can't use that term in his marketing. Kevin asks, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe you're wrong. Don't realtors get paid a large upfront amount upon the sale of their product? It's the same thing. They used to. That recently, was it within the last year? Did that, maybe 2 years? Recently, realtors are now under some different kind of compensation that I don't remember what it is because I don't pay attention to it. I just know that it was a big thing for realtors. You can't get that 6% anymore. Because I think 6% was pretty much the standard.
Even in the mortgage industry, that was the same. They could charge basically whatever they wanted at one point before all of these different regulations came out. So, mortgage loan originators could make money hand over fist by charging different things. So, that would have been.
But for mortgage, it still has to equal out the payment that the person wants. And I remember, and again, I haven't done mortgages in a long time, but if I remember right, like you might have to charge a whole bunch of points to make sure that you can buy down the rate low enough to make sure that the whole thing can make sense. And so that's where that happens. So it depends on, making, because the transaction has to be profitable for everyone involved, the sales agent, the company, and it has to work out for the client. And if nobody's going to make money, then the financial institution does not have to offer that deal.
I don't wonder why she didn't put a hit piece out on car salesmen. You want to talk about a scam?
Yes. Oh, actually, the buy here, pay here car deal. I'd love to see that one. But that's under the CFPB. No, not certified. Not financial. The Consumer Financial Protection Board or Bureau.
I mean, you want to talk about an industry that needs more regulation. There you go. That's the one.
There's all kinds of things that now keep in mind that President Trump has also now promised that no credit card is supposed to be over 10% interest rate, right? So there's all kinds of ideas out there. What's interesting is that Senator Warren, she's just latched on financial services because it's a big deal. And of course, you're advocating for seniors, you're advocating for retirement planning. It's a big lobbying group. The other one I could think of would probably be, and she's local here, is House Representative Katie Porter here out of Irvine. She's got a pretty big voice on some of this, especially for like check cashing places and things like that. She's interviewed like Wells Fargo CEOs and CFOs and whoever else. Yes, I used to work for them, but that's before a lot of this garbage happened for them. But all kinds of things that she would advocate for, and I would say on the smaller end. But Elizabeth Warren, she's after the big kahunas, and she ain't afraid of that. I can tell, but she's just wrong. That's the problem. And it would be easier, actually, it'd be easier for her to get her point across if she actually understood our industry. So maybe she'll actually watch this because, you know, I put her name in the title. Who knows? Alonzo says the realtor commission is for the buyer's agents. Okay, as opposed for the seller. I don't know. I am a little clueless on that, and I don't mind showing that I don't know everything. So Irissa says individuals who provide retirement investment advice for a fee, which is the fiduciaries, meet certain standards of conduct, ensuring that fiduciaries act solely in the interest of their clients and avoid conflicts of interest. But of course, things happen, and they call them loopholes. A lot of financial professionals and firms to evade their fiduciary duty. No, it's not fiduciary duty. I call it about a professional standard. I consider best interest is a professional standard. We want to make sure our client is better off based on the best that we can offer for the client. But one-time advice is often the most important advice individuals planning for retirement may receive, and roughly 5 million savers per year roll their money out of 401ks and into IRAs. You know, yeah, it's a huge transaction. Quite frankly, that's the most profitable transaction. Appreciate you, Aldo, saying, yeah, point about used car salesman. Everybody should be under scrutiny here. Now, the SEC, who does not regulate insurance agents, but they set standards for broker-dealers, protecting retail customers when it comes to advice about investments in securities, but not other investments, right? Like I just said, they don't regulate insurance, or at least insurance agents. In particular, not all annuities are not regulated by the SEC, and prior to the retirement security rule, not addressed under ERISA. So, which require an individual to pay money up front in return for contractually specified payments. Duh, you put money into the contract and it pays out income based on when you want to receive that income. Yeah, that's how an annuity works. You think that she kind of understand that, but not really. So advisors incentivized by kickbacks allowed by these legal loopholes often present annuities as safer guaranteed income. Yeah, they kind of are. But in fact, they can have significantly lower payouts and higher fees than pensions or other investment options. Okay. So talk about conflicting, because you could have had a better outcome with an investment or keeping your money with the pension rather than rolling it over, right? So which means, what is the risk of keeping the money with a pension? Well, that's governed by and secured by the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation. And how well are they doing? Not so well. So would they rather have their money at risk with them, or would they rather take a reduced lump sum and put it into something that they have more control over? That's the option. As far as other investment options, you could do better in the market, but that assumes that you've actually had the risk tolerance conversation. So Senator Warren, sorry, annuities are meant for people who want stability. They want predictability. They do want it safer. And yes, they're giving up that extra earnings that the insurance company gets to have because they're taking the risk. It's a risk transfer vehicle. It's not meant to be an investment, which is why, right up front, she conflates annuities with investments, and they're not the same thing. Stupid. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, right, most people that purchase an annuity, this should just be common sense, is they're going to guarantee you a payout for X amount of years. This is what you're going to get. Maybe there's an inflation rider on there, maybe whatever, you want to do with it. But yeah, they're for people that want stability and a guarantee. If you're the person that doesn't want that, and you're okay with taking on the risk of the market during the distribution of the retirement side of, the mountain here, so to speak, cool. Then it's not for you. But an annuity accomplishes exactly what it says it's going to do. It's going to provide you an income for X amount of years or for the rest of your life, and here's what it's going to pay. And you've eliminated all the risk by doing that. And that gives some, and that a lot of times gives people peace of mind. And so they know that they're going to have whatever it is coming in at this point, and they're not going to have to ever worry about what the market does. You know what? Maybe in theory, they could have had some more money in retirement, depending on how the market does and their investments and things like that. Sure. Some people just care more about safety and security than leaving it out there and taking the what if risk. And you don't have to, first off, you can't even move everybody's assets totally into an annuity anyway. The annuity company won't even allow you to do it. So
yeah, which is something I'm kind of peeved off about with the annuity industry, because they're trying to tell me how much is suitable. I'm like, look, guys should want every dollar we could send you, as long as I can justify exactly why it makes sense. So that's my issue on that. But Aldo, I appreciate you saying this report probably brought to you by Wall Street. Well, it's actually brought by the fiduciary lobbyists, such as the CFP board, such as NAPTA, National Association of Financial Planning Advisors. They're the fee only ones, right? And all those that are for that lobbying group, they're trying to put something out there. And quite frankly, what they're trying to do is impose their version of a competitive advantage on everybody, so we all have to play in the same playing field. Sorry, they're just jealous, because they don't realize that if they could open up their mind and realize that these products have a place, they can make these commissions too. But they don't realize that, and they think it's so conflicted. And I want to make sure I'm always on the side of the client, which is what they're being told by these organizations. You can receive a commission and be on the side of the client all at the same time.
Yeah,
the
two are not mutually exclusive.
Exactly. So anyway, so she's still comparing annuities with investments. And by the way, she needs to read safe withdrawal reports, safe withdrawal rates. I've seen them as low as 1.7 to go as high as lately, was it 3.8, something like that lately. It depends on all these other factors here, but the annuity will guarantee even a higher payout for life. What more do you want? Sorry, we could provide better outcomes guaranteed compared to all those safe withdrawal reports that far more people that are far smarter. Sorry, Dave Ramsey, you're an idiot. But, you got Michael Finca, David Blanchett, and Wade Fowl. They put together these safe withdrawal reports, and they know what they're doing. And I far more trust them than the government trying to tell me how to give advice.
Well, Dave Ramsey thinks you can take 12% out or whatever. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, and we had that conversation. That was like episode 2 or 3 last year. So we went down that rabbit hole, and right. It's possible that you would be okay, but generally, you just don't want to have that particular.
Well, the real question is 12% of what?
Yeah, and we identified Dave Ramsey's favorite 12% mutual fund. Okay, so
moving on.
According to this, now she's the next part. They're identifying TIA. It looks like Tia Kref, saying that they a report revealed that the financial advisors there, a giant annuity firm, handles pension plans for thousands of nonprofit institutions, were putting their interests above their clients by pushing retirement savers toward in-house tools. And okay, maybe. I don't know. Depends on what the tool is. I have to ask compared to what. And they're saying the whistleblower complaint filed with the SEC in June says they stand to reap billions in new revenues when clients use the tool because it quietly steers them into 2 in-house TIA investment products that yield the firm in significant products. But what's the benefit to the client? If there's a particular benefit to the client, and Tia Kref is an annuity company.
Well, this isn't TIA Kref. This is the Teachers Insurance and Annuity Association of America.
Okay, yeah, I would hope that they would differentiate between the two. So either way, I mean, there has to be a benefit there. Now, here's another thing, Liberty Bankers. And here's what it says here. This is the only thing I found that showed a difference between different product lines. It says, if you make a Medicare supplement sale, you get 1 credit. You do an ordinary life sale, it's 2 credits, and supplemental health is 3 credits. So obviously they're rewarding specific behavior for different product lines, but not necessarily saying, okay, out of all of our Medicare supplements, you need to sell, I'm going to make up a letter here, Plan Q, because Plan Q is the best for everybody. You sell the most of that and you're all set. That's not the way it works. And Mike, you appreciate that. I used a completely different letter than anything that's on there because there is no Q.
There is no Plan Q. But I mean, even here, look, I mean, this is hilarious because she's using this to try to make her point. It doesn't even mention annuities as being one of the bonus products. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's more health insurance and ordinary life. That could just be a small little whole life, 25,000. I don't know enough about that company, so I have no idea. So I'm going to guess final expense type of a product. There's nothing wrong with having a burial policy. I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to start swearing. You know what, bitch, get out of the way, okay? Let me just do my job. Okay. Now here's the other one. Now American National is a company I was contracted with, and here she is. They're talking about you could earn up to, oh my gosh, $2,500 in bonuses for selling performance IUL policies. That's not that big of a bonus.
Still not an annuity.
Still not an annuity, and it's not that big. Now, granted, American National is not the biggest company out there. I don't think they have too many 7-figure producers. But still, they got plenty of 6-figure producers. $2,500 is nothing. So just annoying. So now, as we said, that the Department of Labor rule has been stayed, and it says industry lobbyists are attacking DOL's new retirement security rule, and their efforts were derailed by industry groups, the Trump administration, and an activist Fifth Circuit. I think it was them that did the staying on it. I think it's the Fifth Circuit's in Texas somewhere. And here's the slant. Desperate to hang on to their kickbacks, industry groups are working overtime to spread misleading information through biased studies and surveys purporting to show negative impacts on small savers and substantial costs for the industry, in which reality are thinly veiled lobbying tools designed to preserve the very profitable status quo. Now, I've got to admit, I'm not sure that the fiduciary rule would really make a huge difference on small savers. However, what does it increase? It increases our liability in giving the advice behind the product. And when you're increasing your liability, what's the best way to control your liability? It's to reduce your exposure, which means have less clients. And that's exactly what RIA firms do. Most RIA firms per licensed person usually have up to like 250 households per licensed person at the most. And what they start doing is once you're kind of at the most, at your maximum capacity, then you start shifting households out to other people, and you start bringing on newer, higher end households because you want to reduce your liability by how many people you can serve. The insurance industry doesn't really have that because we're promising protections, guarantees, and promises, all because of the nature of the contracts, which means if I don't have to have fiduciary liability, I could take on essentially unlimited number of clients as long as I take care of them, and basically, I mean, one of the biggest insurance agents here in the United States is Van Miller. And last I heard, he has over 7,000 clients, policyholders that's with him. Now, if he becomes a fiduciary for all 7,000, how do you control that kind of liability? Now, he has never had a complaint ever in his life. You can look him up on Broker Check. Never even had a complaint. Never even had anything to be declined or denied after an investigation. So he's been clean. But one of the ways that you reduce liability is you reduce the number of people you serve, which means you have to go up market to make an equivalent income. And that's how the costs are passed over to the small consumer, and they don't get the kind of advice. That's what happens. So it's not because, oh my gosh, all this extra paperwork. No, it's controlling the liability for people who are concerned about their liability. That's where that comes in. Looking here at Equitrust, decent enough company. I've never sold them. But the Equitrust, if I remember right, aren't they partially owned by Magic Johnson? Yeah, Magic Johnson has an ownership interest in Equitrust. And so here they're talking about, I think this is for annuities. Yeah. MGA. Yeah. And so, everybody gets a little bit of an extra enhanced bonus, but you've got to make sure that everything fits. If it doesn't fit to the client, you're not going to sell it. It all has to fit. And she, Senator Warren believes that we're just going to sell everything because we're told to, because here's a contest. You get to, get this trip and everything. No. I value my license. I value my E&O. I value my professional reputation far more than the damn contest. That doesn't mean I won't take it. I'll take whatever they're going to send me, but the client has to win first. Okay, so we talked about that. So, judge in the U.S. Fifth Circuit. Go ahead, Mike.
nobody minds making a bonus if you're doing the right thing for the client. I mean, I don't think anybody would turn that down.
Yeah, you're gonna pay me extra. Oh darn! Let me twist my arm some more. I mean,
Right.
So in
I mean,
July,
this is like the pot calling the kettle black. I mean, for her to put something like this together is probably the highest level of hypocrisy I could even think of. This is actually.
we're not going down her record. Not that I'd have the Cliff's notes on that. I'm only defending us as an industry. I'm not trying to take her down Pocahontas and the professorship at Harvard that I think she showed up once a month to, maybe, if that. I don't know. I've heard all the stories. I don't know if they're all verifiable or not. What do I know? But in July, a judge of Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Texas ruled that the insurance groups challenging the retirement security rule were likely to prevail in their arguments, which we did. The same judge blocked the rule nationally from taking effect in September 2024, the day the Biden-Harris administration new rule was supposed to go into effect, while the lawsuit plays out. And they call an extremist decision driven by court shopping on the part of the financial industry. Well, yeah. Doesn't everybody do that? I mean, if you're trying to get something done, you're going to go court shopping. We've already seen that. As it considers this legislation, Congress must stand with American families and end the pervasive use of kickbacks by the annuity and insurance industries, which seriously harms workers saving for retirement. You consider it harm because they don't get the same return that the company gets to yield so they can pay out the benefits? For shame.
I don't know. Maybe she doesn't want insurance companies to be able to pay the claims they promised. I don't know.
Well, no one accused her of having any business sense.
Well, fair enough.
I'm just saying she doesn't understand how the business works. So Kevin says, I think the government created this whole program where they repealed Glass-Steagall and allowed all financial services companies to play in each other's sandbox. Yeah, that's a part of it. In fact, right now we're still seeing, Cheryl Moore just posted this yesterday on LinkedIn, that NASA, and I don't mean the Space Administration, I mean the National North American Securities Administration Association. I think I got it right. They're trying to put together a proposal of who gets to call themselves an advisor. And I'll give you the real proper definition of an advisor is someone who works by engagement agreement. You have to have an engagement agreement. If you're doing investments under management, you have an ADV Part 2. You should have it probably as part of that, an investment policy statement. That is an investment fiduciary working by engagement agreement. That should be the only definition of an advisor. I'll put that out there because you have an engagement agreement and it spells out the responsibilities of each party in the client relationship. If you don't have an engagement agreement, what are we doing? But if you need engagement agreement templates, the IRC has some in their store. I do recommend that. In fact, they're one-page engagement agreement, so it makes it simple. Okay, so the findings of their reports, by the way, Sentinel Security Life, I thought they were having some regulatory issues before too. What do I know? But they've got contests for the top 10 agents, top 30, and top 5 FMOs. Yeah, appreciate you, Kevin. Kevin says he can get on board with that definition. To me, it makes perfect total legal sense. Because this way, the broker dealers that call themselves advisors, if they're not working by engagement agreement, they're not really being an advisor. And even an assets under management approach has some kind of engagement agreement with it. So either way, engagement agreement means advisory. Okay, so going back here, dozens of annuity companies are offering secretive incentives. Again, same stuff. And they're saying, even if they're not in the best interest of clients, according to what? What criteria is she using? These incentives present a conflict of interest for agents and financial advisors that create a clear incentive for them to recommend and sell products that may not be the best fit for the retirement savers who rely on their advice. Yeah, we've talked about all this stuff, the different trips, whatever. These cash bonuses provide extra incentive for agents to sell particular plans and products, regardless and even in conflict with the best interest of their clients. Again, compared to what? Compared to what? They haven't showed us anything compared to what, other than assets under management. Well, if I have an account that's on the books for 10 years that doesn't grow, and I'm assuming no growth. If I have an account 10 years that doesn't grow and I earn 1% a year, that's 10% over 10 years. The same annuity, I get to earn, 6%?
Hey,
I mean, if you really compare.
Yeah, I'm totally cool with this next part with them calling out Americo. I mean, they need to be called out. They're the worst company I could think of. So, hey, publish the whole thing on Americo. I'm down with that.
But notice what they're calling out though, for sales for instant decision term series products.
Yep, which
Okay,
is the
we're going to
which
get in the way.
I've had my own rant about that already. So
Okay, fair enough. But now she wants to interfere with term insurance being sold.
and again, going back to it, that doesn't have anything to do with annuities. That's term life insurance.
It's term life insurance, and even then, with over 50% of American population has no life insurance at all whatsoever, and you want to discourage the sale of life insurance?
I mean, America is probably the most expensive term life insurance that I can think of, and especially the CBO nonsense that they push. But if you have a product, if you have a policy through America, be sure to reach out to me, and I'll make sure that thing gets replaced in about 3 seconds. So,
Okay, there you go. Yeah, Mike will take care of it. We'll make sure that, of course, we'll make sure that replacement makes sense and everything. You know,
right.
all
As
the
long
proper
as you're
rules are
insurable
followed.
and it makes sense, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what this whole thing talks about. Earn a 10% cash bonus. So what? Now, AIG Partners Group, now Corebridge Financial, offers hefty bonuses up to $54,000 on net weighted premiums of up to $300,000. Now, that looks like a big number. It depends on how net weighted premiums are calculated, right? I don't know. Alonzo, what are the buy term invested difference people gonna do?
I don't know.
I need them to keep selling their product so we can replace it later. Okay, that's what they need to do. I don't want them to get in their way. I want them to keep going because more people need insurance. That's one of the best things that they do, right? They promote the fact you need life insurance. We'll get them in the right one later, but get the life insurance sold. Everybody needs more protection.
The vast majority of people are, well, vastly underinsured. It's just the fact of the matter. But keep going.
All right, so here we go. So now, again, they're talking about the menu of perks, such as sales competitions and other incentive programs through FMOs and SMOs. That's a new term. Yeah, we know about that. So what? Now, this one says, Global Atlantic states that it does not offer secretive or impermissible rewards or incentives to Forethought's financial professionals, but does offer a limited rewards program to its financial professionals in the independent channel. In this case, a trip to breathtaking Half Moon Bay, California. So what? Well, we've already been through that. So I got more. Oh God, I got so much on this stuff. All right. SEC, NAIC best interest guidelines are not effectively eliminating conflict of interest. So specifically, the companies asserted that they comply with state and federal laws, NAIC model best interest rule and SEC standards. The companies may or may not still be providing sales incentives. They're just so against these incentives. Geez, people, get over yourselves. The current NAIC best interest rule is a best interest standard in name only. Now, I got to admit, California just passed SB 263, and SB 263 is talking about the best interest rule for California because they passed it. It used to be a much more stringent fiduciary rule. We adjusted it to be a best interest rule that's in line with over 40 states in the country. And I did my CE. You have to do all new CE. But if you're in California, you need a new 8-hour annuity CE for 2025. And then you need another 4-hour one, I think, before the license expires. Double check the announcements. I got it all done, so I don't have to worry about it. I learned absolutely nothing new about how to sell annuities and as far as best interest rules and everything. There's all this, you got to know their name, their age, the status of life they're in, what's the purpose of the funds, what is their risk tolerance. You got to know all that stuff anyway. Nothing new about that. But I guess if they're looking at people who are just pitching annuities, look how great this thing is without asking any questions, because those people are going to be in for a rude awakening, I guess. Armando says the double standard is screaming. Can you imagine her premiums? She were held to our standards. Yeah, the government gets to do whatever they want. Unfortunately, at least they try to. Thank goodness we have a representative government, although it's not always that much better. But Armando also asked, what's the title of the report? Senator Warren's Annuity Report, September 2024. So you'll be able to search for that. It'll come up first, whether it's Bing or Google, you'll find it. So now this is something I do agree with here, that there's other existing stats. It's all a patchwork of different kinds of regulations that's all coming together. So again, it excludes from its definition of material conflicts of interest, which are probably the most important conflicts of interest for advice on annuity products, the unfettered ability to earn more compensation by recommending some annuities over other annuities and other investment products. She hasn't differentiated a single annuity contract from another. Show me which one's the best one according to the government. I'll tell you which one's the best annuity: Social Security. Hands down, mic drop. That's the best annuity that money can't buy, because you can't get anything better than Social Security. But it's also limited. So as far as your own private dollars, getting your own private annuity that you can get with by contract, they haven't pointed out any particular annuity being better than one versus another. So come on, people. Now, this is the part we'll all agree with. First is the investment in a security in an annuity or something else as property or commodities. If it's in a security, including one of the subsets of annuities defined as security, right? Variable annuities or RILAs, registered index-linked annuities, which is a whole other. I have not studied those much at all. I understand that there is a downside protection component of that, but you can still lose like up to 10%. There's different things in there. I don't know nearly enough about it, and since I don't plan to become a registered rep, I don't really think I need to learn about it. If a client has one, has me look at it, I'll look at it at that point. But if it's in a security, then the SEC regulates that advice, including through FINRA if you're with a broker-dealer. If the investment's in an annuity, whether or not the annuity is a security, then the state insurance laws apply to the advice giver. And if the investment is something else, then the advice on that investment generally is not regulated by either the SEC or state insurance law. Now, companies hide behind dense, inadequate disclosures of conflicts of interest. I happen to agree with this one. Disclosing conflicts of interest in product prospectuses that are distributed to clients but seem deliberately unreadable. And, fully disclose to annuity purchase in the annuity product prospectus. Okay. This book is not a prospectus. This book is the Messiah score. This is a sing-along score. This thing is as thick as some of these small town phone books. I remember when I was selling Hartford variable annuities back about 20 years ago, we had prospectuses this size. Now, in the prospectus, I knew where to find the fees, right? If you have mutual fund fees, I know where to find that. If you have the mortality expense fees for the country, I know where to find that. Living benefit rider fees, I know where to find that. Finding disclosure of conflicts of interest and all the different things, who knows where you'd find it? Obviously, it's got to be disclosed there somewhere, but to have to flip through the whole thing, no investor is going to go through all that to try to find it. They're just not. So I agree with that. A simple one-page thing like the prohibited transaction exception form should be all you need. That's all you need. I could earn different trips. I could earn overrides on my own business. I can earn whatever.
Bonuses. Yeah.
Bonus, whatever it is, it's all, just disclose it. That's all you got to do, which is one thing I happen to like about the PTE form is that if you're going to be held out as a fiduciary, you got to know what fiduciary law requires, and it requires that disclosure if you're going to receive a payment outside of the client. Okay, so it says Jackson Financial says product fees and compensation received by Jackson are disclosed to consumers in our variable annuity product prospectuses. We know it's buried in there. In fact, I was on that podcast with what's his name, Kevin Thompson. And he was telling me that Ameriprise has like a 16-page disclosure in their ADV Part 2. And I think their thing is like 150 pages itself. So they disclose it, they meet the requirement, but they don't make it simple for people to understand. And I'm not convinced that it's a material thing that has to be disclosed. I mean, we said it earlier, whatever the compensation is, doesn't matter as long as, because the contract is the contract is the contract. The contract properties don't change if I get 10% or if I get 2%. If it's right for the client, the compensation is what it is. So yeah, the prospectus can be hundreds of pages long. The disclosure of conflicts of interest is nearly impossible to locate and vague at best. Thus, fully disclosing conflicts of interest in a prospectus is not likely to provide information in a format a purchaser will read, much less understand, and it appears these disclosures are by design hidden from view and incomprehensible. Agreed. No problem. I agree with that. Now, this is interesting. The GAO found that disclosures are generally written at an above college graduate reading level. I'm like, okay, who defines that? And, I'm in the industry, so I know the buzzwords. I know what the terminology is. So, yes, I could understand it. But as a result, even when conflicts are disclosed, consumers are unlikely to be able to protect themselves. One firm noted that out of 15,000 disclosures sent to costumers, that is what it says, costumers. So if you're masquerading as a customer, you are a costumer. Only one investor asked about it. But even then, does it matter? That's the fun part.
I mean, that's the thing with all this stuff, unless you're in the industry, whether it's insurance, financial services, whatever industry you're in, there's always going to be stuff in these reports and these disclosures and the this and the that people just don't know what they are. And, even I talk to people that read the stupid Medicare and You booklet and they don't understand what it is, right? And I don't know, is that above a college reading level? I don't know. Is that just because there's words in there that people don't understand? I don't know. But the point is that there's always going to be these things. And I can't tell you the amount of retirees that have come up to me and said, I read through this Medicare and You book and I have no freaking clue what this thing says. Can you explain it to me? So what are they going to do? Go out there and, redo Medicare and You so that a 2-year-old can read it? I don't know how they're going to do that. Good luck.
They can do that. All they got to do is upload the text to ChatGPT and say, ChatGPT, please reformat this report so a 2-year-old can understand, and let ChatGPT do it. They can be done, I'm sure. Now, I don't know what it's going to come out to, but there could be some. And of course, the more you simplify it, it doesn't mean the longer it's going to be.
Yeah. I mean, fair enough. Yeah.
Armando, appreciate you. This bitch is on the RIA's payroll. Follow the money. Check her stock and financial investments on Congress's site. Don't make me hate her any more than I already do. I'm just going against her accusations of the annuity industry, and maybe she'll find it and realize that she's not as smart as she thinks she is. So even with relatively clear disclosure, investors routinely ignore them and are hard pressed to understand them. Agreed. But here's the thing, is that even if we get all these perks and everything, it's not like the client is paying for them out of pocket. This is not like an A-share mutual fund that has a cost out of their principal being contributed into the account. Annuities work by a spread. You get 100% of whatever you put in to work for you on day one. There's not an upfront cost. Now, are there higher fees? Depends on the contract. As long as everything is disclosed and realize that, okay, like a fixed index annuity, there's only fees if you choose, and it only usually makes sense if you get a lifetime income benefit rider. And those have a cost, about 1% a year. Depends on the program, how it works. And just because there's a fee doesn't mean it's bad. So anyway, merely disclosing a conflict of interest does not give the investor a working model on how to determine the impact of the conflict of interest on the advice they're receiving. That's because 100% of their money works for them in the annuity. So I get to earn a commission. I get to earn a bonus. I get to earn a trip. I get to, do very well within that company. And the client gets 100% of their money to work for them within that contract, how the contract is spelled out. What's the problem? And yeah, there's always abuses everywhere, but the abuses, I think, are far more of a minority. So the conclusion, the industry's secret kickbacks hurt consumers by incentivizing agents to sell certain products because they will earn a bigger cash bonus or fancier vacation, not because they're in the client's best interest. She doesn't understand annuities. We already figured that out. And if they are successful, their hidden kickbacks and junk fees will continue to hurt millions of Americans planning for retirement and cost them billions of dollars. And there's all the further reports and then all the stuff. So anyway, all right. So my conclusions. And we've been talking about this the whole thing. We'll put this to bed here. But Alonzo said, I agree with the earlier point, even with respect to Medicare and You or the Life Buyer's Guide. Yeah, who actually reads them? Geez, I know clients who don't read their contracts. Agreed. And quite frankly, I only reference the stuff when I need to reference it. I'm not going to stand there and read through. I have a hard time. I'm trying to read through a buy-sell specimen thing, and I'm creating a report on the thing. This is so dry as it is. There's a reason why I'm procrastinating. I put the pro in procrastination. I freely admit it. So
I am a procrastinator.
That's right. So I've got a whole page of my points here. So first, Senator Warren conflates annuities with investments, and they're not the same thing. So she doesn't understand the purpose and design of annuities. She believes that all annuities are the same. This report seems to say that annuities investments should be compared in the same way. And if it's during the accumulation phase of life, granted, annuities really aren't necessarily built for that.
No,
But at the
no.
same
In fact,
time,
they're terrible.
could be, but also depends on what the occupation is of that person. So if a person is a business owner and they've got 100,000 like to put away, and like Charlie Gipple just recently posted his annuities that he bought, I think about 100 grand into something with the lifetime income benefit rider. Charlie's my age, so give him 20 years. That thing's going to have a massive retirement income plan. But Charlie is an entrepreneur. He is in our business, so everything depends. So you're not counting on the cash value accumulation, but you're counting on the lifetime benefit accumulation value. And that will grow however it's going to grow. Now, if it's during the decumulation or spending phase, if retirement, we got to compare what that contract's going to do based on, safe withdrawal rates and whatever else. That's what professionals do, Senator. We're trying to figure that out because we're the ones that get to go to jail if we screw it up. She doesn't see the fact that we have liability, that's what the fact that we have a license to act is all about, that we can be held accountable for our recommendations and our actions. So she doesn't see insurance professionals as professionals. She sees them only as salespeople. Implies that annuities are only sold because of compensation or other perks, that insurance agents don't do any of their own due diligence in contract terms, conditions, fees, costs, etc. Because none of that changes the properties of the contract. Does it change the results, promises, protections, guarantees of the contract? Generally not. Talk about broker sold mutual funds that are associated with lower average returns. And I say returns aren't the focus. Risk adjusted returns should be. That must assume that the commissions come out of the investment or deposit or contribution into the annuity, which would be a hard cost. So there are hard costs and soft costs. But the commission paid is not a fee charged against the contract. Now, if you surrender more than 10% of your contract in a given year, there is, in a given year during the surrender charge period, there will be a surrender charge assessed above that 10%. So in a way, that's where the commission comes back. But that's only if you are in the position where you have to do that. So it's not everybody. But the commission is a soft fee that's recouped over time. It's a spread. So we let the insurance company figure out how to make money on that. But their job is to stay in business to provide the benefits that the contract offers. She is trying to crusade and champion on behalf of American families. But quite frankly, that's our job. We're crusading. And quite frankly, we do a better job of it because of misinformed senators. But her own financial literacy and use of the purpose of these tools is lacking. She doesn't understand the value of what annuities do. And while this part doesn't apply to annuities, but does apply to life insurance, pooling our production can help you get underwriting concessions, because if you're a big producer, they want to help keep you happy and help keep as much business on the books. So every insurance agent, I believe, has a fiduciary duty, if we're going to use the term, to themselves and their clients to become as successful as possible, so that when such issues arise, particularly in underwriting, we're in a position to request underwriting concessions to help clients get what they want based on the promises, protection, guarantees, and everything we can do with our products and services. That's an hour and a half of a rant. Had to do it.
So tell us how you really feel.
I don't want to get demonetized. I don't. I already said it. She needs to leave our industry alone. Now, I will say that there are some people who are doing criminal type of advice. There are improper sales and stuff going on, but there's already laws on the books for that. So we don't need anything new for that. Thanks, Kevin. Kevin's hoping I can just show a little bit more passion, whatever that means.
He has no emotion.
None, absolutely not. I am so Bueller.
He's like a stone.
So, yeah, I want government to get out of our way. Government did what we needed them to do a couple years ago when they passed the 7702 law to make it better for insurance companies to have to have a lower interest rate assumption for life insurance policies. So they did that. Glad for that, because those limits were set back it's actually 40 years ago now, with that were a higher interest rate environment. So I was glad for that. I don't need government to do anything else. Let us do what we got to do. If anything, I wish, in a way I do, in a way I don't. In a way, I wish companies could be more proactive in promoting how good our products are. But because they did that many, many eons ago, that's how we got Tamra, Tefra, and Defra. And so the companies are in a self-preservation mode. They can't get all that stuff out there because they don't want to bring a regulatory target for them that come against our legal products. So, and quite frankly, even if they did that, that would increase their overhead. Why should we have a company increase overhead to convince more people to buy when we could just work with the people who believe in what we're trying to do? We represent our products properly, and they can get a higher dividend because the company has lower operating costs. So anybody that's wondering, why can't the insurance companies put this out? I don't want them to. Let us do that. We're duly licensed agents, licensed to the state to help people do as much business as they want, if the annuity companies will let us, to help them secure the financial futures that they want. So anyway, this is far longer than our usual podcast. We're normally, about an hour, sometimes a little less. So an hour and a half of a rant. I had to do it because this thing just peeved me, and I wanted to just tear this thing apart. So anybody that brings up the fiduciary stuff, well, Senator Warren is saying, just point him to this thing, and we'll see if I figure like if I want to even answer the comments. Who knows?
You know what he's gonna do? Any comments that we get, he's gonna take them and make me answer them because he doesn't want to do it.
Could be. Who knows? All right, gentlemen. So, Mike, any other final thoughts? I think I've said everything I've wanted to say. And by the way, rule number 1, I'm always right. Rule number 2, if I'm ever wrong, see rule number 1. I'm sticking with that one.
No, I'm good, man. I think we've gone long enough on this one. I think we beat the horse to a pulp, and it is officially dead. And so I think we're good to go here for today.
Sounds great. I appreciate everybody chiming in and participating, and we'll see you all next week. And yes, I actually have got some weekly ideas I've got scheduled out for the next, let's just call it 3 months. So
we're gonna be kind of going point by point through kind of a series. So that'll be very good. It'll be a very good series.
And it's going to be a financial literacy course. I actually did one of these for the county library, and I put it together for now I've got it for 12 weeks, but I had it as a 10-week course. I saw a clip, and I'll share it next week. And I was blown away by this clip based on this clip alone, it made me think, we're going to get a financial literacy series out there and make it a playlist. And anybody that wants to look up, and another reason too is because that Mike, your favorite video on my YouTube channel, the HP12C financial calculator is my best performing video. Last year was my best performing video. Go ahead.
So all I was going to say is every week we get a report of which of our videos are performing well. And every single week, this damn calculator is at the top of the list every single week. Except for with the exception of maybe when Brian Summerfield was on, he might have beaten the calculator. But
he was good.
Every week, the top video is the calculator. So if you guys can push this thing out and we can beat the calculator this week, that would at least make me excited.
Well, So the calculator, but it also tells me that, and I think a lot of people are tuning into that video because they're preparing. Like I had some teachers that commented on it, because they're preparing to teach a financial literacy course. It's becoming part of the high school curriculum. If I could get my curriculum, maybe they'll teach our stuff through the school system or whatever. And I'm not saying it's going to be that academic, but it's going to be real world stuff. And we're not going to get off into the weeds as much but we'll add some of it, I'm sure, as things pop up. But so anyway, Kevin, I appreciate you chiming in. Opinions are and everyone has them. Most of them stink. Yep. And thank you. Appreciate you. So anyway, we will see you all next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Have a great afternoon. You have been listening to an episode of the Financial Advocacy Podcast. As a reminder, you can't hold us accountable for any actions you take on your own. Just like all financial entertainment shows, we are not providing legal, tax, or securities investment advice of any kind. We do provide general investment information for educational purposes only, and we will discuss alternative financial strategies that do not contain liquid securities. You can view all of our disclosures and disclaimers at our website at www.financialadvocacypodcast.com. Look both ways for across the street. Thank you for listening, and make it a great day.